Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
um, all right. I hope everybody's doing well. This is my first time trying to do a YouTube live, so please forgive any technical difficulties that you might be seeing. I should be able to see any comments that you leave me on the actual YouTube video. You can leave any questions that you have down below. At the bottom right, you can leave any questions that you have, and I should be able to see those and answer them for you. So today in this live stream, we are gonna talk about really any questions that you have, and I'm gonna start with a few things that people have already asked me. I sent an email to my email list. I see, okay, hey, Mr. Gold, he says, hola. I sent an email to my email list asking what questions you guys might have about Spanish, and I got a few responses. So I figured I'd get started with those. But I would love to know, first of all, let me know in the comments where you guys are calling in from or joining from. You can type that in, and in the meantime, I'm going to share my screen and jump to the very first question that I got. So yeah, in the meantime, let me know in the comments any questions that come up for you, anything that you have, and I'd also love to know where you're joining from. Got one from Raleigh, North Carolina, and Fort Lauderdale. Excellent. So yeah, let me start with the first question that I got, which is regarding the phrase lo siento, for I'm sorry, and whether or not it's appropriate to say, kind of what situations it's appropriate to say lo siento in. So the example that was given was lo siento, pero solo hablo un poco de español. Sorry, but I only speak a little bit of Spanish. And the person who asked the question was wondering, is that correct? And yeah, that's a fine way to say that. That's just like saying, sorry, I only speak a little bit of English, or I only speak a little bit of Spanish. That's a fine thing to say. Lo siento is literally I regret it, although it's not quite as dramatic as that. Lo siento is kind of a more uh, uh, let's see, it's a more serious way to apologize for something. I think I talked about this in one of my videos and related to being polite in Spanish. And one of the other words that I mentioned in that is perdón. Perdón, which sounds a lot like pardon. And you can say, so in this situation, you could also say perdón, pardon, perdón, pero solo hablo un poco de español. Sorry, pardon, but I only speak a little bit of Spanish. So those would kind of be the two main things that you could put together to say that kind of situation. And then if you're actually apologizing for something, lo siento is an appropriate thing to say in a lot of situations. Or if it's not that bad, if what you did was minor, you just bumped into someone, perdón or disculpe are both good things to say. The next question that I got was, how do you use the keyboard to put accents over letters in Spanish? How do you type Spanish correctly with the accents where they go? That depends on what you're typing on. So if you're on a phone, you, at least on the iPhone or any Apple product mobile device, on that keyboard, you can just press the letter that you want, and as you press down, the letters with the accents appear above it. On a Mac, the same thing happens on a keyboard. If you hold down the E, for example, it's going to pop up in your browser the option to type in an E. Look at my browser up here. I'm typing, see, E right there with the accent. Alternatively, you can just do option and then the letter on a Mac. Option and the letter on a Mac. And then on a Windows computer, it is it's a little bit different. I will leave a link in the comments here for Windows. And then here's one for how to do it on a Mac. All right. So the next question that I got, and while I'm answering these, guys, please feel free to be thinking of any questions that you have related to Spanish, and feel free to put them in the comments. The next question that I got was, what are the correct ways to say "I love" in Spanish when you're referring to, for example, a spouse or a child or a pet or food or anything really. So, what's the correct way to use to say the word love in Spanish? Because we've got two main words that people use. We have amar, two main verbs: amar, amar, and querer, which you probably already know is to want, but it also is used for love. So there are two main things that are going on here with love. First one is amar is used mainly for romantic love in most places. Take everything I'm saying with a regional grain of salt, because in some places, for example, in Spain, it's a lot less common to use the verb amar than it is in Latin America, or at least in Mexico and Central America. Um, so people use the verb amar as in te amo, I love you, te amo, pretty much most of the time with romantic love. It's not uncommon, though, to hear people say, for example, te amo mama, I love you, mom, te amo papa. For example, if it was a bigger occasion, but on a day to day basis, very often you'll hear people more say te quiero, which is kind of a dialed back version of te amo. Te amo is definitely stronger. And because it also has that romantic connotation, um, depending on the circumstance, it just carries a little bit more weight with it. So I think the average Spanish speaker might reserve te amo for more special occasions, unless they're talking to their significant other, in which case they would probably say te amo pretty often. But again, that depends on where you are. And I know in certain countries, it's a lot less common to use amar than it is querer. And then when you're talking about whether you love something or not, like an inanimate object or an activity, you can use the verb amar, and it doesn't have a romantic connotation. If you say that you love pizza, amo la pizza, it doesn't mean that you are in love with pizza, literally, in a romantic way. It just means that you, um, same thing as saying me encanta la pizza. Amo la pizza. If you're talking about a person, you need to include the pronoun a. So there's the personal a in Spanish, personal a. When you are talking to somebody in particular, talking about someone. So, for example, um, um, if you say you're talking about your dad in the third person, amo a mi papá. I love to my dad. That a is necessary whenever we're talking about a person in Spanish, and it goes with most other verbs. For example, le voy a preguntar a mi papá. I'm going to ask my dad. Le voy a preguntar a mi papá. You have to include the a there whenever you're talking about another human. But yeah, with the verb amar, you can use that talking about inanimate objects as well, or activities or hobbies and things like that, things that you love. But you can also use the verb which you may already know, or the expression me encanta, which works the same as me gusta, as in like me gusta correr, I like to run. Me encanta correr. Same thing, same grammatical structure, but me encanta refers to, it's just stronger. It means that kind of comes from the same root as the English word enchanted. So it implies something a little bit stronger than love does, or than like does, than gustar. I had another question. I will move on from that. Another question was, when do you use y, versus for the word and? This is a great question. The word and in Spanish, you probably already know, is y, as in the letter y, y in Spanish, literally Greek I, y, y is y in Spanish. Or sorry, is and. And in 99.9% of cases, you use the letter y to say the word and. So like, tengo un libro y una taza de café. Un libro y una taza de café. But if the word that follows the y starts with an I, we would use the letter E. We would replace that Y with an E. And this is because the Y makes the same sound as the letter I in Spanish. So E, meaning and, makes the same sound as E, the letter I. So I'm going to write that in the comments because maybe that's confusing to hear spoken out loud. E, as in the letter I, equals Y in terms of pronunciation. I'm typing that in the comment box now. E and Y, well, I should say that with a caveat. As long as that word, that letter is by itself. Because, for example, the letter Y, you might know, depending on where you are in the Spanish-speaking world, the letter Y can kind of vary. For example, it starts with the word yo, as in I, can be pronounced yo, sho, depending on where the person's from. But anyway, back to the point of the letter Y, and that is that the letter Y, as in and, has to change to an E, the English letter E, when it precedes a word that starts with I. So, trying to think of an example here on the spot. So, if you say that it was difficult, and it was long and impossible. Fue largo e imposible. So largo meaning long, e imposible, or es una persona buena e importante. I'll type that in the comments. Una persona buena e importante. Es una persona buena e importante, and not y importante. Because if you say es una persona buena y importante, the two vowels would combine. They would run together, and form one kind of. You wouldn't know that there was actually the word and in there. So you got to have the in order to differentiate. One thing that you may have noticed in Spanish is that people combine vowels when they're next to one another. When there are two identical vowels. For example, two words, one word ending in E, the English letter E, and starting with the English letter E, the next word starting with an E. The two words are going to run together. So, let's take a random combination of words. Entre estudios, between studies. Between studies. Entre estudios. Most Spanish speakers, when they're speaking, are going to say entre estudios. Entre estudios. They're not going to have a big gap In English, we have a lot more gaps between words, and we have this thing called a glottal stop, which is where we stop a word in the middle of a word, um, not fully, but we kind of our throat closes a little bit, and it creates a gap between two vowels very often, or in other particular sounds in English. In Spanish, this doesn't really exist, and so words, especially where two sounds are similar, tend to run together. And this is part of the reason why Spanish very often sounds fast to non-native speakers, or especially to people who are just starting out with Spanish. In reality, it's not actually. Um, Spanish doesn't communicate necessarily, on average, more information per minute or per second of spoken speech. It just happens that they have more syllables, kind of in the way that they communicate. So if you take Chinese, for example, studies have shown that in Chinese there's a lot more meaning in a given syllable in spoken Mandarin Chinese, whereas in Spanish, in a given syllable, there's comparatively less meaning, and so words are typically made up of more syllables, which can create the impression that people are speaking super rapid fire. In reality, that's the case sometimes, but on average, it's not necessarily faster than other languages. It just happens that you're trying to learn it, and you're trying to making sense of a totally foreign set of sounds is a huge challenge, and so it really just takes a lot of listening over and over and exposure to the different sounds in Spanish to make that happen. Let's see. Another question that I had um, was, let's see. Okay, so I had a couple, and I put them on the screen here, and a couple others. There's one that I've heard a lot. I didn't hear it from anybody for this particular thing, but I thought it would be relevant, and I thought it might be helpful for you guys. And that is, why do phrases that you might be familiar with that start with que, like que tengas un buen día, or que te vaya bien, or que duermas bien, why do those phrases that start with que, where you're wishing something to someone, why do they use the subjunctive? The subjunctive, if you're not familiar with it or don't know what it is, it's a verb tense that essentially expresses doubt. And it's when the outcome is unclear. And so what's happening here with que tengas un buen día is that it's not the complete expression. Que tengas un buen día is kind of a shortened version of what is an implied fuller expression, which is espero, I hope que tengas un buen día. Espero que tengas un buen día. I hope that you have a good day. And whenever you use the word hope, there is doubt implied. You don't know if they will, in fact, have a good day. And so because of that, Spanish grammar reflects this in the way that they change their verbs. So, que tengas un buen día is really just kind of a shortened verb, a shortened version of espero que tengas un buen día. Or que te vaya bien is also sort of just a shortened version of espero que te vaya bien. I hope that it goes well to you, literally. I hope that you have a good day, or I hope that you know that everything goes well. Another question that I've heard is, what's the difference between no sé and no lo sé? No sé and no lo sé. Well, both of these mean I don't know. No sé means I don't know. And no lo sé also means I don't know. But the difference really is that no lo sé refers to something that when you already know what you're when the thing that you don't know has already been talked about. So, for example, if someone asks you, if you were talking about your friend, and you're wondering when your friend is going to arrive, and you're already talking about that friend, you know the context of that friend's being there. You might say, ¿Cuándo llega tu amiga? When is your friend arriving? ¿Cuándo llega tu amiga? Then the person answering, the person you ask, might say, no lo sé. No lo sé. I don't know. Literally, I don't know it. I don't know it. The lo referring to the topic at hand, which is the fact that the friend isn't there yet. So lo in this case refers to that whole idea that was expressed, or this whole missing person in this case. In most other cases, you're just going to use no sé. Again, like a lot of stuff in Spanish, this changes based on where you are. You might find that in some places people say no lo sé a lot more than in other places. And it's just one of the idiosyncrasies of Spanish, and just something to get used to. Either one of them is especially incorrect in any given situation. So it's not something to really stress about. For you as a learner, I would just not even worry too much about it. Just know that it's there, that these two phrases exist, and that you'll hear people say both no sé and no lo sé, and that when you as you get used to hearing people say it and get used to hearing more and more examples of people using these kind of two different expressions, you will get the hang of it and build kind of an intuition for what is right and what you should say. But I wouldn't worry about it or try to force it. Just wait and you'll hear it plenty, and eventually you'll kind of know, you'll have a good feeling for when it's right to use no sé versus no lo sé. Other things, you could also say, for example, no estoy seguro, I'm not sure, or no estoy segura, or no tengo idea, or quién sabe. These are some other good ones to say. Say I don't know. I'll put those in the comments. No estoy seguro or segura. No tengo idea. And quién sabe. Who knows? So if you want to get a little bit more creative with your Spanish and you feel tired of saying no sé all the time, these are some other options for you. Because definitely as a learner, not knowing stuff is a really common experience. So it's helpful to have some other options up your sleeve. Another thing that I've come across a lot is, and I remember this especially from kind of, I consider myself still learning Spanish. I'm not a native speaker. I'm always trying to improve, and but I remember this from when I was learning Spanish earlier, kind of, and the fact that I can't wait is a very English or American or English language idiom, but it's one that we say a lot, and so it's really hard to break the habit of figuring out how to say this. It's hard to break the habit of trying to translate it literally from English. We think, you might think that you could say, no puedo esperar. I can't wait. No puedo esperar. And that's the literal translation of I can't wait. But if you say that, I think that people will understand you, but it's kind of a weird like sentence construct in Spanish. And in reality, no puedo esperar has the implication that you literally can't wait for something, like you have to go to the bathroom, or um, uh, let's see, like mm, um, like if somebody is gonna come and they're really late and you can't wait for them anymore. So your Uber's coming and your friend's like, no, wait 10 minutes for me. And you said, no, the Uber's here already. No puedo esperar más. I can't wait any longer. I can't wait more. That's the kind of situation when you would say no puedo esperar. But in the everyday, like colloquial version that we want to say, I can't wait, we would say, um, tengo muchas ganas. Tengo muchas ganas de hacer whatever. I have literally, I have a lot of desire or a lot of like eagerness or excitement to do this. So in Spanish, the idiom is tener ganas de. So tengo muchas ganas de ver la nueva película de Batman. I can't wait to see the new Batman movie. Tengo muchas ganas de verte um, en el verano. I can't wait to see you in the summer. So, this is one of many examples where I think it's helpful to question yourself if you find yourself translating phrases that are idiomatic in English and you find yourself saying them literally in Spanish. It's good to question yourself. You can go to a website like wordreference.com. This is a great online dictionary with a forum where you have lots of speakers of both languages chiming in and asking questions. And there are probably people with your same question. And you can read what they've already asked, or you can ask your own questions related to this. So that's a great place to get answers from kind of personal perspectives from native speakers um, on any subject, in particular idiomatic expressions like this one. I have a question from Michael down here who says, when talking to my tutor, I always seem to choose the wrong word between por and para. Can you tell me a way to learn that other than intense grammar studies? Sure. First of all, I would say that you can think of you. First of all, you want to create a general rule for yourself. You want to figure out. You want to know, and you may already know, but if you don't already have a good overview of por and para, just go to Google and type in por versus para. Get a general overview of what's what. The short answer is por is used for it's like by, through, in exchange for. These are the scenarios where you use por, where we in English might say by or through or in exchange or for you. Whereas para, you can think of more as directional or saying in order to. So if in English you might say, if in English you were saying, in order to do this, I need to do that, you would always use para. Or if you are talking about, again, directionally, talking about the directions to, for example, people will say, voy para la playa. I'm going to the beach. The direction, para the beach, la playa. But you may already know that. And so I think a more helpful kind of having that general overview is helpful. And then one thing that I would suggest really is to take maybe 10 examples in Spanish, 10 sentences with por, 10 sentences with para, and review them over the course of a week. You can use, there's a great app that's called Anki, Anki, which allows you to input your own flashcards. And then it operates, it's called a space-based repetition software, and it'll show you these phrases, these grammatical phrases, strategically over a certain interval based on when it thinks you are likely to forget them. So that can be a great, I don't have time to go into too much depth with that right now, but take a look at that. And otherwise, though, kind of a low-tech, easy solution is just to take these 10 examples of each, or even more if you like, and write them down in your notebook, and then review them, just like read them. Practice getting as much exposure to por and para in context as possible. So rather than reading the rules, I guess the short way to say it is this: rather than reading the rules and then trying to figure it out, and really trying to memorize every rule in every scenario, get a general overview of por versus para, and then try and make sure you see it in as many different possible contexts, as possible over time. And then just be patient with yourself, because over time it'll make a lot more sense. That's the kind of the unsatisfying answer, is that with a lot of grammatical things in Spanish, you need to be patient with yourself. You could really, one thing that I recommend to people that I work with sometimes is to take a week and take one piece of grammar and focus on that for the week. Meaning you can do other stuff with Spanish, but don't spend, if you find that you're really struggling with one thing, it can be worth focusing on it for a shorter period of time rather than dragging it out over months. you can condense that lots and lots of exposure into the course of a week. So you might take por and para and try and see as many different examples, do tests and quizzes, create your own sentences using them, go to a website like highnative.com and upload your sentences there and get feedback from native speakers on whether or not what you said was correct. And that's a great way to and that can be a great way to kind of condense the learning of a particular sorry, I realize I'm still sharing this. That can be a great way to condense your learning of a particular grammatical structure that you're struggling with into a shorter period of time rather than dragging it out over a longer period of time. So I hope that helps with por and para. Let's see. And then, Michael, one last thing I'll add related to that is you can just sort of Google at the end of this, when you do decide to focus on, if you want to make sure like next week you learn por and para, just type in Google and go to type in por versus para. You'll get a lot of results and a lot of different examples. Just pick one website, read their examples and read their explanations, and then take kind of try and create your own sentences, and you can copy and paste them into Google and see if there are results from native speakers on non-Spanish education websites. See if there are examples of native speakers actually using por or para in those ways. And then again, the last thing is just to be patient with yourself, because it'll make sense over time. Last comment here is from Dan. He says, "No puedo esperar," related to "I can't wait." And yeah, Dan, that is I think maybe, I don't know when you joined, but "I can't wait" literally is "no puedo esperar." But if you're talking about the idiomatic expression of like "I can't wait for," I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to see you. In English, in Spanish, you wouldn't probably say "no puedo esperar" para verte. You would say you'd be more likely to say "tengo muchas ganas." Tengo muchas ganas de verte. I will type that in the comments here. All right, we are at the time here. I really appreciate. I see we've got some people here, and I really appreciate you guys watching and tuning in and asking me questions. This is a lot of fun. I'll definitely do another one of these soon. So feel free to leave a comment with any questions that you didn't get in and that you'd like me to answer in a future live Q&A like this one. Best of luck to all of you in your Spanish. If you want some additional help with your Spanish, I have a free course on my website at breakthroughspanish.com that's meant to help you learn some of the basics of conversational Spanish in just 5 days. If you're interested, go to breakthroughspanish.com and check that out. And otherwise, I will see you in the next video.